Hey there, everyone. Omega Snake here. And yes, I'm still working on part 4. Hopefully, I'll be done soon. But I thought I'd take a little break to talk about something. And I've been wanting to do this rant for a while. See, I'm really into Yu Gi Oh! And lately, I've been hearing a lot about this new mechanic called Pendulum Summoning. And when it comes to that, a lot of the times I just hear a lot of whining and complaining about how it's broken, how easy it is to summon monsters, or how I want to quit now, and things like that. And it just makes me shake my head. For those of you who don't know, Pendulum Summoning is a new mechanic introduced with these new cards called Pendulum Monsters. You can place them into these new zones called Pendulum Zones. And depending on where you put them, you use the blue number for the left one or the red number for the right one. Once you have both Pendulum Zones filled, you can then summon as many monsters in your hand as you want to the field with Pendulum Summoning, as long as their levels stay within the numbers on both sides. So if the blue one is 2 and the red one is 8, you can only summon monsters between level 3 and 7. Yeah, it cannot be on the same number. But yeah, you can basically summon all monsters in your hand in one move with Pendulum Summoning. And I hear that, people saying it's really broken and stuff, but that's because people don't think. See, the thing is, yeah, it may allow you to bring out all the monsters in your hand, and yeah, you can then use Xyz, Synchros, all that, and bring out your best monsters. But what people don't understand is that for every pro, there's always a con. There's always a bad side to things. And I'm actually here to explain that Pendulum Summoning is not as broken as you think. All you have to do is think about the cons of it, and just think rationally. Here, I'll use a few examples. For example, yeah, you can bring out all your monsters, but if you decide to go all in, you also lose your hand advantage. And here's the really bad news. If, for some reason, your opponent has a torrential tribute on your field, you basically lose all the monsters you summoned during your Pendulum Summoning, since it's still a summon, and the card says any monsters that are summoned, you can activate this trap to destroy all monsters on the field. So all they have to do is just wait for you to finish Pendulum Summoning, and then they activate Torrential Tribute, and then you're basically screwed. Or, if they don't have that, and you decide to go all in with an all-out attack with your best monsters, boom! Mirror Force. Say goodbye to all the monsters in attack mode. And people don't also realize that you can only Pendulum Summoning once per turn. So if you do that, you can't Pendulum Summon anymore that turn. And you also can't rely on the monsters in your Pendulum Zone because they can't switch between the Monster Card Zone and the Pendulum Zone. They have to stay where they are. So if you get screwed over, you can't move them from the Pendulum Zone to your Monster Zone and protect you. And there's plenty of other things, too, that people can do. For example, my sister runs Arc Lord Christia, which prevents special summoning altogether, and Pendulum Summoning is another form of special summoning. So if Christia's on the field, you're basically screwed because you can't Pendulum Summon. And there's also like Magic Cylinder, Sakuretsu Armor. There are plenty of things that can basically ruin your plans. And then if you XC summon, you can also get hit by Bottomless Trap Hole. There's plenty of things that opponents can do to ruin your Pendulum Summoning and turn it against you. So it's really not broken. You just have to think, what can you do to counter it? And as it turns out, there are plenty of things. Oh, and you can also stop Pendulum Summoning altogether because when they're in the Pendulum Zones, those monster cards are treated as spell cards, and they are vulnerable to card effects that destroy spells and traps like Mystical Space Typhoon. Also, I know what you're also going to say, but that's situational and all that, but everything is situational, okay? You don't know if you're going to be able to Pendulum Summon a lot of monsters if you don't have a lot of monsters in your hand. And like I said, here's one of the biggest weaknesses of Pendulum Summoning. If you try to go all in and summon all the monsters in your hand, and then you get screwed over by Torrential Tribute or Mirror Force, you basically lose your hand advantage. You're basically left with barely any cards in your hand, and you're basically wide open to attack unless you have a spell or trap card in your hand. So, yeah, Pendulum summoning is not as broken as you think. You just have to think, what can you do to counter it? And yes, I know that when a pendulum monster is destroyed, you can put it in your extra deck and then summon it via pendulum summoning. But here's the thing though, if its summoning gets negated, it still goes to the graveyard. It only goes to the extra deck if it was removed from the field. So if you get rid of it, like using bottomless trap hole or something, it's gone. All you have to do is just think. Pendulum summoning, yeah, it has really good pros. It can allow you to summon a lot of monsters and then synchro and exceeds a lot. But the con is that if things go wrong, you're basically leaving yourself wide open. So there's also a little bit of risk there. All you have to do is just think. It is not worth getting angry over and saying, oh, it's broken, I want to quit. It just basically means you can't adapt. Dueling is all about adapting to each situation. No duel is going to go the same way. What worked in one duel might not work in another one. So if you want to rage quit just because of this, go ahead, because we don't need duelists like you that can't even adapt to a new mechanic. Seriously. Lastly, there is one rule I like to live by. One thing that I always keep in mind. In Yu-Gi-Oh!, all it takes is one card to completely screw you over. And that is true for everything. Xyz summoning, pendulum summoning, laying down your best spells and traps. All it takes is one card to screw you over completely. Well, that's basically all I wanted to talk about. Don't hate on pendulum summoning just because it's a new mechanic. Pendulum summoning has its pros and cons just like everything else, just like Xyz and just like synchros. All you have to do is just think about what cards can royally screw over a pendulum summoning. Well, I hope that brings out some insight, and I hope it allows you guys to think about the fact that pendulum summoning may not be as broken as you think. And if you guys want me to do more of these rants where I basically speak my opinions about it, let me know. Well, I gotta get back to work on that E3 video. This is Omega Snake signing out. See you guys next time.